This is the Bronco Raptor. It's big, it's bold, and it's one of the most talked about off-road beasts out there. But there's a lot they don't tell you about owning these bucking Broncos. Today, I'm gonna break down the brutal truth, the cons that you won't hear from dealerships or Reddit or commercials. If you're thinking about buying any flavor of Bronco, from sport all the way to Raptor, you wanna see this. Like, subscribe, and let's go. Tired of dash cams that just don't cut it? Well, today we're checking out the latest of F77's dash cam, which is today's sponsor. And this dash cam offers dual 4K plus 4K resolution, covering both front and rear views. And the high definition IMX678 sensor delivers crisp, clear footage with an impressive 16 million pixel resolution. Oh, and for night driving, this cam is equipped with Sony's Starvis 2 pixel technology paired with HDR, which makes low light conditions bright as day. Plus, you get 128 gigabytes of eMMC 5.1 built-in storage, delivering speeds 10 times faster than traditional SD cards. Plus, the hardwire kit lets you enable 24/7 parking monitoring without draining your battery. And it's incredibly easy to use. The 5.8 gigahertz Wi-Fi allows lightning fast downloads of your footage. The smart voice control lets you turn on Wi-Fi or switch the rear camera hands-free. And whether it's the 24/7 parking surveillance, the real-time GPS tracking, or the G sensor that locks footage in an emergency, this dash cam has you covered. Use code 10RT4KF77 for 24% off your F77 from November 1st to December 2nd. So hit the pin first comment to grab yours now. And thanks for supporting the sponsors that support us. Now, back to the show. The Bronco Raptor's built to tackle anything off-road, but for every jaw-dropping moment of pure power, there are a few surprises, downsizes you might not expect, like the impracticality of daily use, the constant battle with fuel economy, and even a few design quirks that might leave you scratching your head. Let's dig a little bit deeper. And don't get me wrong, I love this thing, but owning a Bronco Raptor comes with a lot of challenges. Today, I'm gonna lay out the good, the bad, and the unexpected ugly truth of owning one. And if you're on the fence about buying one, well, stick around because we're gonna dive into all the reasons any flavor of Bronco is not just another SUV. It's a lot more than that. Let's get into the biggest drawback first. Fuel economy. This Bronco Raptor averages roughly 15 miles per gallon. And if you're off-roading or really pushing it, like you should, it'll drop even lower. Now, this vehicle, I know it's high performance, but it drinks fuel like water. And, well, you're gonna get to know your local gas attendant very, very well. And this thing only sucks down premium fuel, so it's gonna cost a lot of money. And this is not just a small issue, this is a defining characteristic. If you're thinking about using it as a daily driver like we do, well, you gotta ask yourself, is it worth paying that much money to drive this beast? Yeah, it kinda is. Let's get on to number two. Yes, she thick. In fact, my wife affectionately calls this Bronco Raptor Lizzo because she's thick 30 o'clock. And in fact, it's 9 inches wider than the standard Bronco with the Sasquatch package. And believe it or not, this thing is actually 1 inch wider than a Hummer H1. It's that wide. Now, the tough thing is that extra width, well, it gives you great stability, but when you're in narrow trails or you're trying to park in a parking lot, it can get pretty difficult pretty quickly. So if your adventure takes you through tight forest paths or city streets, you're gonna feel every one of those extra inches.
That's what she said.
Now, Ford did a lot of things right with the Bronco, but there are some build quality issues that you need to know about. This interior, well, it kind of rattles a lot more than it should, and also the decibels going down the freeway, it's pretty loud in here. I mean, it really doesn't have a top. And I know that doesn't really matter if you're using it for what you should be using it for, which is off-roading, but this thing spends 99.9% of the time on the road. It's essentially a pavement princess. And I've also heard that a lot of people are actually dealing with some rust issues on the frame, which luckily we don't have any yet, but that is something to be aware of when you buy a Bronco. Gotta watch out for that. And personally, the build quality when you're spending like 6 figures on something like this, and honestly, you'd expect a little bit more longevity and quality control, but it is what it is. It's a blue oval. The rear seats are also another downside. These actually do not even recline one bit, so it's a little bit too upright and it's kind of uncomfortable, especially on longer road trips. On top of that, as you can see, there are no AC vents or heater vents back here, so all of the heat is coming from the front. And yeah, it doesn't circulate very well in here, so it does get a little bit chilly or a little bit hot. And as you can see, those back seats aren't all that big. It's kind of a 2+2. I mean, my Porsche has more room in the back, almost. Another thing, this Bronco's transmission is a 10-speed, and it's 2 to 3 too many gears. It's not a dual clutch, and sometimes you can actually feel it kind of jerking, especially at low speeds. Now, also, if you accelerate hard, it does shift very quickly, and there is a thud. It really just jolts you into the back of the head with each shift. But sometimes you just want a little bit smoother experience, and maybe a tune could improve that, but you'd get rid of the warranty, and well, that's another thing that we need to talk about. But before we talk about warranty, look at these fender flares. Now, I don't know if it's something that only a mother could love, because I think they look good. Now, the newer ones, the 24s, come with painted fenders, which I think look a little bit better, but it's almost like it's just a regular truck, and then boom, you got like, what is that, 12 inches? Well, according to my wife, no, it's like 8 inches of just pure fender. Now, we actually did aftermarket wheels and tires, so you can see that they actually poke a little bit. I think the stance is perfect on these things, but we went with the aftermarket 37, which is what they come with stock, but I think with 40s, they look a little bit better. Now, this one is a double whammy, literally. I wish they made a 2-door Bronco Raptor. That would be sweet. It would be shorter, so it'd be better in the trails. Also, you can get this with any transmission that you want as long as it is an automatic. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just a shame. You gotta save the manuals. And the only way we're gonna do that is if we get stuff like Jeeps and Broncos with manual transmissions. You hearing me, Ford? And the elephant in the room, price. The Bronco Raptor is not cheap. Now, this one had an MSRP of like $77,000, but we paid 6 figures for it. And that's roughly what they're going for in 2025. Now, this vehicle does give you a ton of performance and very little luxury, as we already talked about, but that price is a major barrier for a lot of people. And yes, it has like 14 inches of suspension, and just look at this valved suspension in the rear. Can I even show you? Look at that. That's incredible. That is absolutely nuts. But is it 6-figure nuts? I don't think so. The sun is brutal right now, but this audio system is not great. There's not that many speakers because, well, they couldn't put any in the doors because you can take off the doors. But also the subwoofer back here, hey, don't honk at me. This guy, it rattles non-stop. So you really don't get a very good audiophile experience with this Bronco. Not that that's the reason that you bought it, but you'd expect with a sub and a couple of speakers that it would sound a wee bit better. But I can't even wake up the neighbors on full blast. And before we bought Lizzo about 2 years ago, we had another off-roader, Jeep, Wrangler, Rubicon, Eco Diesel, named Tina. And we didn't like that thing very much. In fact, we liked the Bronco a lot more. But one thing that we liked about Tina, she was fully kitted, and the aftermarket support was second to none. This is really tough to find parts to put on the Bronco Raptor, and on top of that, they're way more expensive than they were for the Jeep. So the aftermarket support is kind of lacking because I think 1, price makes it so that a lot of people aren't buying them, but 2, just doesn't make that much sense to mod this thing. It's already so sick stock, but you know, some people do. And yes, that was a lot of downsides, but there also are some upsides, which is why you buy a Bronco and why we've actually really enjoyed owning this for 2 years, although we are gonna sell it pretty soon. Now, the first upside is, the off-road capability. When we have taken it off-road, this thing is phenomenal. With locking front and rear differentials, trail turn assist, and 13 luscious inches of suspension. The Bronco Raptor can take you pretty much anywhere. Further than you should go, honestly. Plus the high-performance Fox suspension, that thing tackles any rugged terrain and just laughs at it. The ride is smooth, it's controlled, and it's really confidence inspiring. Plus all the different GOAT modes here. It's like having a toolkit for every type of terrain, whether it's snow or towing, or you wanna go fast, Baja. Every single one does something different, and they're all really, really well calibrated. Plus, this isn't a V8, it is a twin turbo V6. And believe it or not, the factory tune is pretty good, but with an aftermarket tune, which you can actually get one that keeps the warranty for you through Ford, this thing becomes an absolute powerhouse. Reliability has been perfect so far. In fact, we haven't had any issues with this thing at all, except oil changes. And this 3-liter twin turbo is built to handle a lot of abuse and a lot more power. So a tune, I would do it, especially if you can keep the warranty. And last but not least, the looks. This thing looks like a Tonka truck, and the code orange paint really sets it off. I think it's one of the best colors that you can get in the Bronco Raptor. And that being said, from sport all the way to Raptor, Broncos, it's a lifestyle. It's one of those vehicles that you buy for more than the sum of the parts. And that's exactly what this thing has been for us. And we have really enjoyed it with the doors off, with the roof off. It really becomes kind of like a speedboat in a way, but for the road. Interesting, that's what cars are. But overall, are you thinking about buying a Bronco? Let us know in the comments below. I love this truck, but it's time to let this thing go. We've had it for a couple of years, and as much as we loved it, I think I might get back into a Bronco at some point, but not in the near future. I think I'm gonna get something a little bit more luxurious. So if you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and check out these vids over here. I'm Brad, this is Ideal, that's Lizzo. We'll see you next week, and promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle.